Welcome, miladies of inestimable value. The most dangerous person in the room is the one who has nothing to prove. Sigmas are walking paradoxes, too independent to follow the crowd, too enigmatic to be ignored, and too sharp for anyone's comfort. They don't demand attention, they command it, often without uttering a single word. Studies have shown that humans instinctively fear what they don't understand. And Sigmas? Well, they're practically a mystery wrapped in a riddle and dipped in quiet defiance. It's not that Sigmas try to be misunderstood. It's that most people aren't equipped to grasp their depth. They're the human version of a Rubik's Cube, fascinating to look at, maddening to figure out, and guaranteed to make you question your intelligence. While others compete for the spotlight, Sigmas are busy mastering the art of being unseen yet unforgettable, leaving everyone asking, who is that person? And here's the kicker. They don't care if you ever find out. Number 1. They're rare, and rare things are always feared. Sigmas are rare, and that's exactly what makes them intimidating. People are naturally drawn to what they can label, categorize, or fit into a tidy box. It's how most minds make sense of the world, by finding patterns and sticking to them. But Sigmas, they shatter those patterns. They exist outside the predefined roles society has carefully laid out. They're not loud like alphas, they're not submissive like betas, and they're certainly not looking for anyone's approval. This refusal to conform leaves people unsettled, not because they dislike the Sigma, but because they can't figure them out. There's an unspoken power in being unplaceable. Sigmas aren't part of the system others are used to operating in, and that alone makes them stand out. People fear what they don't understand, and with Sigmas it feels like you're looking at a puzzle with a missing piece, only to realize the piece was never missing. It was never meant to fit. That kind of enigma sparks fascination, sure, but it also brings discomfort. It's like encountering something rare and powerful, but not knowing if it's your ally or your undoing. What makes this even more striking is how Sigmas don't flaunt their uniqueness. They're not rare by effort, they just are. Their scarcity is a natural byproduct of their independence, their unwillingness to be swayed by trends, and their ability to forge their own path without needing a crowd to follow them. People who crave stability and sameness often find themselves nervously drawn to Sigmas, unsure whether to admire them or steer clear. The fear isn't in what Sigmas do, it's in what they represent. Freedom, autonomy, and the undeniable proof that some people simply can't be defined, controlled, or pinned down, and that in itself is a power few know how to handle. Number 2. They play by their own rulebook, which scares people who live in herds. Sigmas terrify people because they refuse to play the game. Everyone else is obsessed with winning, while the majority are scrambling to climb social ladders, fit into societal expectations, or seek validation through conformity. Sigmas couldn't care less. They don't just step outside the box, they crush it, toss it aside, and build their own space entirely. This kind of rebellion is subtle but powerful. It's not loud or attention-seeking. It's a quiet defiance that makes people deeply uncomfortable because it challenges everything they've been conditioned to believe. Most people find security in rules and systems because it gives them a framework to live by. Sigmas, they see these frameworks as limits. They play by their own rules, ones they've carefully constructed based on their values, logic, and experience. This autonomy makes them a wild card, someone you can't predict, control, or fully understand. And that's where the fear sets in. People who rely on predictability, who need others to follow the program, feel powerless in the presence of a Sigma. The unsettling part is that Sigmas aren't trying to rebel. They're just wired differently. They don't reject the herd mentality to stand out. They simply see no value in it. They thrive in a self-made system, which makes them untouchable to societal pressures. This unshakable independence disrupts the balance for those who depend on compliance to maintain control. Sigmas aren't out to break rules. They're out to prove they don't need them in the first place. For those obsessed with labels or hierarchies, Sigmas are a nightmare. You can't put them in a box, and you definitely can't force them into your game. They'll beat you simply by refusing to play. And nothing is scarier than someone who has nothing to lose because they've already built their own freedom. Number 3. They're too comfortable with the unknown. Most people fear the unknown because it strips away their sense of control, leaving them vulnerable and uncertain. But Sigmas, they see the unknown as an opportunity rather than a threat. They don't just face uncertainty, they thrive in it, navigating chaos with a level of calm that feels almost unnatural to those who depend on predictability to stay afloat. This fearless embrace of the unpredictable is both their power and the reason they make others so uncomfortable. For those who live by carefully planned routines and predictable outcomes, Sigmas are like a walking storm. Their comfort with uncertainty makes it impossible to pin them down, predict their moves, or even fully understand their mindset. They see what others fear, a blank slate, a pathless terrain, and dive in headfirst, driven by curiosity and confidence in their ability to adapt. It's not recklessness, it's the belief that growth and discovery lie in places others are too scared to go. This trait unnerves people because it shines a glaring light on their own fears and limitations. Watching someone willingly step into the unknown with poise and focus is both fascinating and deeply unsettling. It's as if Sigmas hold a secret map to life that no one else can read. They make chaos look like an art form, effortlessly turning uncertainty into opportunity while everyone else is stuck trying to avoid it. What makes it even more intimidating is how they never seek reassurance from anyone. They move forward with an almost eerie self-assurance, a quiet resolve that doesn't require validation or support. It's not that they enjoy chaos, it's that they've mastered the ability to navigate it. And in a world obsessed with control, nothing is more fearsome than someone who has made peace with the unpredictable. Number 4, they don't crave validation, making them impossible to manipulate. Most people run on a fuel of external validation. It's the silent agreement that keeps society ticking. Compliments, likes, promotions, applause, these are the currencies that many trade in to feel secure, worthy, or influential. But Sigmas? They've opted out of this economy entirely. They couldn't care less about approval, whether it comes in the form of praise or criticism. Their sense of self-worth is self-sustained, like an endless reservoir that no one else has the keys to. And that makes them terrifying to those who thrive on control. People who rely on manipulation or influence to maintain their power are left powerless in the face of a Sigma. You can't manipulate someone who doesn't need your validation. You can't guilt them into compliance or flatter them into submission. They're immune to the tactics that work so well on others because their decisions aren't based on what will make them look good. They're based on what feels authentic and aligns with their values. This kind of independence is deeply unsettling to anyone who expects the usual social dynamics to apply. A Sigma won't chase after approval, nor will they crumble under rejection. They don't care if you love them, hate them, or don't notice them at all. This untouchable quality creates a power dynamic that's impossible to crack, leaving manipulators spinning their wheels in frustration. To make matters worse for the control-obsessed, Sigmas aren't openly defiant. They're calm, composed, and unapologetically themselves. Their refusal to play by the rules of validation doesn't come from arrogance. It comes from an unshakable sense of who they are. And in a world where influence is a weapon, nothing is scarier than someone who can't be bought, swayed, or controlled. Number 5. They're obsessed with mastery, not mediocrity. Sigmas aren't the type to settle for good enough. They approach life with an almost surgical focus, dissecting their passions, interests, and goals until they've mastered them. They don't dabble in hobbies or flirt with ambitions. They commit fully, diving so deep into their pursuits that it often leaves others stunned, if not a little insecure. While most people are content with surface-level competence, Sigmas are wired to push beyond mediocrity, refusing to stop until they've achieved something truly exceptional. This obsession with mastery isn't about showing off or feeding their ego. It's about satisfying their own internal standards. Sigmas set the bar high, not to compete with others, but because they simply don't see the point in doing something halfway. Their relentless drive often exposes the half-hearted efforts of those around them, not by intention, but by sheer contrast. Watching someone pour themselves into something with that level of precision can be inspiring, but it can also feel like a mirror reflecting one's own complacency. What makes this even more unnerving is how quietly they do it. Sigmas don't broadcast their efforts or beg for recognition. They're too busy refining, improving, and perfecting to care whether anyone is watching. This calm intensity leaves people unsure how to respond. It's not arrogance. It's a kind of quiet confidence that comes from knowing they've earned every ounce of their success. For those who skate by on shortcuts or mediocrity, being around a Sigma can feel like being left in the dust. It's not that Sigmas mean to overshadow anyone. It's just that their very existence reminds others of what's possible when you stop settling for less. And that silent reminder? It's as inspiring as it is threatening. Number 6. Their independence is a mirror for others' dependencies. Sigmas are fiercely independent, and that independence isn't just a personal trait. It's a reflection that forces others to confront their own dependencies. When people encounter a Sigma, it's not the Sigma's self-sufficiency that unnerves them, but the realization of how much they rely on external sources for their happiness and validation. Sigmas don't need approval, constant reassurance, or a network of people to prop them up. They thrive on their own terms, and that can feel like a harsh spotlight on the fragile scaffolding of other people's lives. For many, happiness is intricately tied to relationships, status, or societal expectations. They depend on being liked, on being part of the crowd, or on following a script that tells them what to do next. A Sigma, by contrast, writes their own script and couldn't care less about anyone else's approval. That kind of autonomy is unsettling because it highlights just how much power most people give away to others, whether through people-pleasing, fear of rejection, or the need to belong. What makes this even more jarring is that Sigmas aren't out to prove anything. Their independence isn't loud or confrontational. It's quiet and unyielding. They live life unapologetically, not because they're trying to stand out, but because they genuinely don't need the external validation that others are chasing. Being around someone so self-sufficient forces people to question why they're so dependent on external sources for their sense of worth. It's a wake-up call that many aren't ready for. Instead of seeing Sigmas as an inspiration for what's possible, people often project their discomfort outward, resenting Sigmas for holding up a mirror they didn't ask for. It's not hatred, it's fear of what that reflection reveals. Number 7. They are masters of psychological judo. Sigmas possess a rare skill that could be described as psychological judo, an ability to outmaneuver people without brute force or flashy displays of dominance. They don't waste time trying to overpower others. Instead, they master the art of redirecting energy and intentions, often leaving people utterly perplexed. It's not about manipulation or malice. It's about using intelligence and precision to navigate tricky situations with minimal effort and maximum impact. When someone tries to provoke a Sigma, they don't react impulsively. Instead, they observe, analyze, and wait for the perfect moment to subtly turn the situation around. Their approach is surgical, cutting through the noise to strike at the core of the issue. They understand human behavior deeply, which allows them to predict moves before they're even made. While others are busy reacting emotionally, the Sigma stays a step ahead, making choices that dismantle the opposition's strategy without breaking a sweat. What makes this skill so unnerving is its subtlety. Sigmas don't need dramatic confrontations or grand victories to prove their point. They let people trip over their own tactics, offering no resistance yet leaving the opponent disarmed and confused. By the time someone realizes they've been outthought, the Sigma is already on to the next thing, completely unbothered. It's like playing chess with someone who's already mapped out the entire game before you've even made your first move. This precision unnerves people because it's hard to pin down. You can't call it aggression, arrogance, or defiance. It's too quiet for that. Sigmas don't fight, they neutralize. And in a world where most people rely on force or volume to get their way, the Sigma's calm, calculated approach feels both alien and unbeatable. Number 8. They can switch between shadows and spotlight at will. Sigmas have an uncanny ability to control their visibility, moving seamlessly between the shadows and the spotlight with precision. They know when to step back, observe, and let the noise of the world pass them by. In these moments, they become almost invisible, studying their surroundings and conserving their energy. Then, just when everyone's forgotten they're there, or perhaps started to underestimate them, they re-emerge with a force that's impossible to ignore. It's not accidental, it's strategy, and it's executed flawlessly. This unpredictability is what leaves people unnerved. Most are either attention seekers or perpetually in the background, predictable in their roles and habits. Sigmas, they're wild cards. They don't play by the unspoken social rules of always needing to be seen or always fading into the background. Instead, they operate on their own terms, deciding when to take the lead and when to disappear entirely. It's like watching a chess master make a sudden, brilliant move after sitting quietly for hours. You never saw it coming, but it was planned all along. What makes this so unnerving is the sheer control they exhibit over their presence. Most people are driven by a need to be noticed or a fear of being ignored. Sigmas, however, are free of such anxieties. They're equally comfortable being the star of the show or a silent observer in the corner. This ability to adapt, to be seen only when it suits their purpose, creates an air of mystery that people find both fascinating and unsettling. In a world that thrives on predictability, the Sigma's calculated shifts between visibility and invisibility feel like a power move. It keeps people guessing, and humans, by nature, hate what they can't anticipate. Sigmas weaponize this uncertainty not out of malice, but simply because it's who they are. Number 9. They see through social games instantly. Sigmas have a knack for cutting through social games with a level of clarity that can be almost unsettling. Whether it's the whispered power plays of office politics, the sly, passive-aggressive comments, or the phony smiles and compliments that never reach the eyes, Sigmas see it all. They don't need to play the game. They've already figured out the rules and the players before the first move is made. This awareness is instinctive, like a sixth sense that cuts through the social facade and exposes the raw intentions beneath. The most dangerous part? Sigmas don't always feel the need to call it out. They don't need to confront, accuse, or stir the pot. Their awareness is enough. When they see through an agenda or a manipulation, they don't flinch or react. They simply know, and that's often enough to shift the dynamic. Their silence can be more powerful than any confrontation, as it leaves others exposed and unsure of what to do next. People who rely on subtle control tactics and calculated social maneuvering suddenly find themselves in a corner, stripped of their usual power. For those who thrive on deceit, a Sigma's ability to read the subtext of a conversation is threatening. It's like being in a game where your every move is anticipated, but you can't see your opponent's next play. The Sigma doesn't just play the game, they understand it, down to its most minute details. And while others scramble to maintain their masks, Sigmas walk through the chaos with a calm that says, "I know exactly who you are and what you're doing." For some, it's too much to handle. It's not just unsettling, it's terrifying. Number 10. Their silence isn't weakness, it's strategy. Sigmas have an artful way of mastering silence, a skill that many mistake for weakness. While others are shouting their worth, filling rooms with noise as if volume is a currency, Sigmas remain composed, their mouths shut, and their minds working at full capacity. It's not that they have nothing to say. They have everything to say, but know when it's best to hold back. Their silence isn't passive or awkward, it's strategic. They're not just listening, they're absorbing, analyzing, and understanding the nuances of every interaction, every shift in tone, every unspoken word. And that's where their true power lies. In a world where people mistake talking for strength and verbosity for intelligence, the Sigma's quiet is a statement in itself. It's the kind of quiet that unnerves people, makes them shift in their seats and wonder if they've been assessed without even knowing it. When a Sigma finally speaks, it's not with a flood of words but with deliberate, potent insight that cuts to the core. Their silence, built on deep awareness and calculation, creates a sense of anticipation that people often overlook until it's too late. This strategic silence is the Sigma's silent weapon, one that exposes the weaknesses of those who can't comprehend it. To those who are loud and insecure, who need to be seen to feel valid, the Sigma's presence becomes a mystery they can't unravel. It's not just a form of power, it's the kind that makes them unpredictable, a force that moves in the background while others scramble for attention. It's the predator in the room who doesn't need to show its teeth, because it already knows you're watching and it already knows it's in control. In the end, the Sigma isn't just feared for what they can do, they're feared for what they are, a force that defies easy understanding. They are a puzzle that doesn't reveal its secrets, a quiet storm that reshapes everything it touches without warning. They don't conform to the rules of society, and that's exactly what makes them so powerful. It's the independence, the strategic silence, the razor-sharp awareness of the world around them that sets them apart. To truly know a Sigma is to accept that you might never fully understand them, and that's not just okay, it's part of their beauty. There's a strength in that mystery, a power that comes from being untouchable yet fully present. And while they may be feared, they don't wield their power recklessly. Instead, they move through life with a calculated grace that leaves those who cross their path questioning everything they thought they knew about strength, presence, and purpose. The Sigma's presence is a reminder that there's more than one way to be strong, and that strength isn't always loud. Sometimes it's the one who stands back, watches, and knows when to strike. In their silence, in their independence, they show us that true power doesn't need to shout to be heard. It whispers, and that's what makes it unforgettable. If you found this insight into the Sigma mindset captivating and want more of the unique deep dives that challenge the ordinary, make sure to hit that subscribe button. Join us as we uncover the stories, strategies, and untold truths that keep you thinking long after you've finished watching. Don't miss out on the content that goes beyond the surface and takes you into the extraordinary. Subscribe now and be part of the journey.